Hi, my name is Misha, and I'm writing a book. You might notice that I have a new setting today. I'm at my parents' house. I'm helping take care of my aunt while my parents are in London visiting my sister and my nephews because my sister just had a baby earlier this year. My aunt has dementia, so I'm helping take care of her while they're away. So I'm going to be filming and writing in this new space. I'll be here for about 2 weeks. It is still July. I'm still working through that challenge. And I'm definitely finding that I'm having some hiccups. If you don't know anything about the July Writing Challenge, I'll link the video below for some of my July writing goals. But basically, I'm working on writing 50,000 words this month for the first draft of my novel. Today, I would love to talk about different methods and tips and tricks that I use to get myself into the writing zone. Even though this is the first draft of my book, I've written about 3 different books before, and I've gone through the revision stages of those books. This is actually the first time that I just really want to share what I'm writing and also document the process in some shape or form. I've written since I was quite young, and throughout the years of my writing journey, I have learned quite a few methods to be able to get into the writing zone, especially when I am not feeling like writing. So I will put a little bit of a disclaimer here. I find that especially for myself and with book writing specifically, I find that that type of writing comes in seasons for me. There are seasons of my life that feel a lot more social and where I'm creative in so many other ways, but maybe I'm not writing as much, and I'm especially not book writing. And in those periods, I'm almost thinking of it as this sort of preparation time for my book, whatever it might be. During the actual writing period is when I typically use a lot of these tips and tricks to be able to get into the zone. I'll be also maintaining them as I move into the revision process once I'm done the first draft of my novel, which we're trudging along. We're trudging along, although I'm still hoping to get the first draft done by the end of August. When I'm in first draft mode, especially, I try to write daily. These challenges that I've created for myself in terms of word count goals, that's not something I do all the time, although I do love a word count goal. I think what takes the longest is learning how a book needs to be written or how a project needs to be written. And what I mean by that is what methods, what tools do I need to be able to write it? Is there a research that I need to do in advance? Is this something that I want to write by hand and it will flow easily when I write it by hand, or will it work better if I type it? I do find that tip number one, if you are working to get into the writing zone and really struggling to get inside of it, or if you're feeling a little bit stuck, try changing the software or the method in which you're writing from. So for example, if you're used to typing on Scrivener, for example, for your book, try using Google Docs or try writing by hand, because I find that when you change how you're writing, a lot of times that shift will help you flow better into it. And this is actually the first book where I'm typing the first draft, and all other books that I've written, I've actually written them by hand. So I was struggling for quite a while because the book was just flowing better when I was typing it, and it wasn't flowing when I was writing by hand. And that is just not what I'm used to. It was just a bit of a mental block. I don't know why, but because I'm so used to writing it by hand, I was frustrated because I was like, this is the one thing I know for certain, because I would like writing first drafts by hand. But I had to kind of listen to the fact that it was just flowing better when I was typing it, and doing that, it's really helped me maintain a level of flow when I gave into that a little bit. So I do find that the software or the program that you're using or the method that you're, or tool that you're using to write, or the platform you're using to write, really can shift things for you. And if you switch it up, it might actually help you flow a little bit better or get out of that blocked zone. Number two is creating a visual of some sorts, creating a mood board for what I'm writing, especially for a novel, really, really helps. And then I can look at it. It's kind of like a vision board or a collage of sorts for your book. And I find that looking at it just really helps inspire me. This was actually the second time that I've created a mood board for what I'm writing. Maybe I'll share it with you over here, what the mood board for the book that I'm writing is or kind of looks like. I find that colors, certain visuals, certain photographs can be super inspiring and can help shift the way that you're thinking about your book, or can help you tap back into that bigger picture of what you're working towards. I find this especially helpful when I'm feeling like I'm dissecting things a little bit too much, or I'm overthinking things a little bit too much. That element of pulling back, seeing what I'm doing as a big picture, which is what helps me get inspired to dive back into things, and adding a visual component to something that is especially tailored towards my book that I've created, and found photographs to work together and collage together. It really does something to my brain. The third tip I've actually already spoken about a little bit on my channel. I recommend staring at a wall. I'll do it for 10 minutes at a time. My cat is running towards me. I'll put a timer on and I'll set it for like 10 minutes, and I'll just stare at a wall for 10 minutes and wait until the timer's done. It's almost a little bit meditative, letting your brain just feel boredom and not be stimulated really helps me get back into the zone of things. And usually I'll start feeling like writing again when I've been able to take those pauses. And you don't have to stare at a wall. It can be whatever type of pause that works best for you. It could be a walk without any music. Just not feeling very stimulated does help. The next tip that I have is listening to inspiring writer talks. My favorite one is Neil Gaiman. His Make Good Art speech.
People who know what they're doing know the rules, and they know what is possible and what is impossible. You do not, and you should not. The rules on what is possible and impossible in the arts were made by people who had not tested the bounds of the possible by going beyond them. And you can. If you don't know it's impossible, it's easier to do. And because nobody's done it before, they haven't made up rules to stop anyone doing that particular thing again.
I'll also link that down below if you haven't seen it. I recently watched an interview by Ocean Vuong, and he spoke a lot about creativity and writer's block specifically. And it's the Oprah Winfrey interview that Ocean Vuong recently had. Oprah Winfrey basically asked, so you don't get writer's block? And he responded, I don't believe in that, because writer's block is in relation to productivity. Because then you have to ask, well, block according to whom? Block according to what measure of production? So for me, it's like, if I can't write, which happens, I think, and that's productive. It's not just about creating something quantifiable. I really resonated with that because I don't necessarily believe in writer's block completely. I don't feel like you have to be actively writing 24/7 to be called a writer. I think there's so much weight to being an artist of any kind, or to being a creative of any kind, and to label yourself as that feels like you have to have XYZ credentials to be able to do it. If you write, you are a writer. That is all. Listening to a writer that you really respect and admire, talking about creativity, I feel like really fills up my creative well. The next tip that I tend to do is giving myself pep talks. I do this more often than not, especially because I'm someone, as many of us can be, I'm someone who's very hard on myself. Giving myself some sort of a pep talk, especially in front of a mirror. I live alone, so this helps because because I don't actually live with people who can listen to me doing this. I'm sure it's fine, even if you do live with people who can hear you doing this. Sometimes I'm just like, it's really not that serious. You're writing stories. This is fun. I think sometimes I make everything more intense than it needs to be. And I think sometimes when we get really deep into a writing project or any type of creative pursuit, sometimes you get lost in the sauce. You kind of begin to disconnect from the why you're doing what you're doing, why you're creating what you're creating, why you love creating And I think coming back to that why is really important. I still have a really strong relationship with writing because I continuously and really intentionally try to remind myself and bring myself back to the why I do what I do and why I create what I create and why I love to write. I think that the root of it is really important to ground yourself with, especially in moments when you're being really hard on yourself. I find that when I'm blocked or when I'm feeling the most stuck is actually when I'm just being hard on myself, feeling like a bit of a failure, feeling like I am not as good as a lot of other people, or playing a bit of a comparison game, or I am questioning my ability to write a sentence because honestly, some days it is really hard to just write a good sentence. And then other days, it just feels like what I'm writing just flows so well. And coming back to it day by day, I don't just write when I'm inspired, especially for me when it comes to book writing. And I think of it as really a writing season, a first draft season. Once we're past this prep period where I'm not really writing as much, but I'm probably reading a lot, I'm probably socializing, I am exploring different hobbies and different activities, trying a lot of new things, and in a lot of this like exploratory phase, which I think is really critical to the first draft. And when you get into the writing zone, I become a little bit of a hermit. When I'm in writing mode, I am not in exploratory mode anymore. I'm not looking or seeking for new experiences as much as I am seeking routine and consistency. For me means my life has to feel a little bit more mundane to some degree, whatever I can control. And this kind of leads into the last tip, which is a tip that was in an author interview that I cannot remember the author, so I don't know who to credit. It is not me. I did not make this up. Someone else did. And if you know who it is, please let me know in the comments below because I can't remember. A good writing practice and coming back day after day and feeling inspired. A lot of what keeps me writing is not necessarily discipline as much as it is self-forgiveness.
Because we all start our project on day one with the same level of excitement. And on day two, we all look at what we wrote on day one and we all hate ourselves because what we wrote on day one or did on day one, whatever our creativity is, it's horrible. The people who go on day three and pick it up again and start over are not the most disciplined. It's not rigor that's going to get you there. It's saying, I'm just going to do what I can. And you forgive yourself for disappointing yourself. And you go and you do more.
At the end of the day, the root of what blocks me typically, or what makes me feel very resistant to writing in general, especially because it's something that I love and have always loved, it's thinking that I am not good enough to be doing it. It always comes back to feeling like I will never be as good as I want to be. You're questioning everything. You're questioning why you're even bothering writing. Why are you even bothering to create this thing? Someone else could probably do it better. Forgiveness of the fact that I may not be writing what is in my head as beautifully as it is when it's up in my head. And no matter what, it is never going to look that way. It's never going to be perfect. And whatever's in my head, that's perfect. What I write down, that's real. And I can go in and I can edit it and I can revise and I can make it better and I can do the best that I can. And I can hopefully grow from that and become a better writer from that. I would rather be writing terribly than not writing at all. And so it's really that the root of at least my blocks are often perfectionism or some sort of self-doubt that's really coming out of the woodworks. You are going to be imperfect in the way that you create, and that is a part of it. And that's what makes it fun and exciting and messy and powerful and meaningful at the end of the day. If it was something that was easy or linear or it didn't require effort, it would be boring. None of us would want to do it. None of us would want to make art. It's fun because it's interesting. I hope that some of these tips and tricks were helpful. Please let me know in the comments below, what are some of the tips and tricks you use to get into the writing zone? I'd love to hear from you. And I will talk to you guys very soon. Bye.